This is Gordo, this is Cancer University, this is my man R,
Dave.
Dave,
Anya.
Anya. Well, we just gonna basically talk about a little bit about the lifestyle, what they go through out here on the Cancer University. Cause this is like a university. You come down, you learn shit that you never thought about. You'll learn down here.
That's the truth.
Yeah, you can start. I can start.
But where? I don't know where to start.
You can start like you got kids, you got family. What made you get to get high?
Should
Like that.
I guess start my drug use? Well, I was like high school. I was completely straight. I never did any drugs. I was against it.
Yeah.
I was really goth. But then my father committed suicide when I was 16, and a lot of stuff changed. And I went to college the next year, and within 3 weeks I was, smoking blunts in alleys. And but nothing, no hard drugs.
Where was this?
I went to the Art Institute in Center City.
You have a Philly?
Yeah, I lived in Center City. I graduated in 2000 and moved to Center City, and then I lived there for 6 years. But I was a photography major at the Art Institute. But no hard drugs there. I've experimented with a lot of like acid and weed and that kind of stuff. Until I got involved, I started dating this kid that he's actually my son's father now.
You was already getting high for that?
What's that?
When you met him, you was already getting high or not?
I was once in a while. But it was a totally different thing. It was, the kind of thing that we would plan. We would go camping. We would take acid. It wasn't an everyday thing. It was a whole new. When I met him and his friends, it was a whole another level. With the harder drug, the cocaine and the heavy drinking and like they couldn't have fun without doing it. It was like, before we went out, it was always like, what are we going to get first before we can go out and have fun?
I know what that is. I used to take perk before. I know what that is. Before you do anything, go out anywhere, you want to... Oh, it's the same way with weed.
Right.
When you want to smoke before you do anything, you want to smoke. And like a cigarette, before you do anything, you want to smoke.
Well, yeah, I was smoking like 8 times a day, at that point.
Yeah.
But then that guy, my boyfriend at the time, he had gotten in a fight and he had a knee injury, and so they prescribed him Vicodin, and that was the first opiate I think I ever had, other than when I got my tonsils out and they gave me Tylenol as a little kid. But
mostly everybody start out with perk.
It was Vicodin, and I remember feeling like warm and fuzzy, and but that was it was alright.
And your ex-husband, your son,
my son's father,
he introduced you to the dope after the opiate?
No, actually, he was working. We had moved to South Philly for a year. It was like me and 4 of my guy friends, and we got this big row home in South Philly, and that's when September 11th happened. And we were having a blast in Center City. We moved to South Philly, and it was like all the fun stopped. And then September 11th happened, and that was when I was 19, and it was like the worst year ever. But he started working. I got him this job at an Italian deli, and the owner there had like a jar of Percocets, all the time. So he started taking them. Yeah. And he would, bring home a couple. And I remember thinking, like, wow, this is... I was really interested in brain chemistry and how drugs affected that. And, the 60s, I was interested in that, which is why I experimented with hallucinogens. But I remember thinking, like, every other drug that I had done, it was like the come down, like, was too hard, or, like the bad didn't outweigh the good or something. But when I took a Percocet, it was like perfect. So I'm like, oh my God, this is perfect. Like I feel up, like almost like cocaine, but the come down isn't too bad. And like, I remember thinking, this is great. Then I had moved back to Center City, and I worked for a winery in the Reading Terminal Market, and I met this guy that used to stop in, this old man. He was like 63, and he used to bring me pills all the time, just for free, never charged me. And I ended up meeting a few people like that. I'm pretty sure I took something almost every day for 2 years and never paid for anything ever. You know, so that kind of started an issue, but it never went past like Percocets.
No.
And then my boyfriend at the time started getting really violent. He started like binge using cocaine and getting really violent, and I ended up having to get a restraining order. And I moved home with my mother, who apparently became a hoarder while I was in college, like on the show, like big time.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even open the front door, and there was cat shit everywhere and big piles, and I couldn't even fit myself in the house. So, but I had no way to get anything, so I kind of stopped using for a while.
I was gonna ask you a question.
Yeah.
If you would not been getting high, how would you been doing?
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again?
If you would not been doing dope, right? How will you see yourself now with your family, like with your son and your
I would probably see myself living in a cabin in the woods somewhere in upstate New York or New Hampshire, probably making homemade soaps and having my own business.
You see your son do a lot, or no?
I usually do, but not recently because
Like your addiction, your family don't want you around and stuff.
well, that's a long
They
story.
want you really to
but,
get your shit together, so like that you sound like that, man.
he's living with his father's mother, and we don't get along at all. And she'll use any excuse to keep me away from him.
Especially with your addiction, she gonna use that more. So.
They don't know that I'm using right now.
No.
Because I was in jail for a year. My addiction really took off after my son. Like I had kind of stopped using.
Yeah.
But living in that house with my mom and I was like imprisoned in like a dark hole of stuff.
Through all the hoarding,
Yeah.
all that. Yeah, that can be really depressing.
It's very depressing.
And it's not even hoarding, it's just really. It's
Well,
like,
what would happen is I'd be like, all right, I'm going to clean this. And I would start with a small room, and I'd work for like 10 hours on that room, and just to get down to the floor. And I'd find dead birds and shit and all kinds of stuff. I don't even know. And within 3 days, it was all back. And like then I would do it again and again and again, and eventually it like broke down my soul. Like it just beat me down to the point where I couldn't even do it anymore. And I started just living like that because
you got used to that environment.
like,
it's
can't
almost
beat 'em,
like
gun 'em.
it's almost like an outward picture of the way you feel about yourself inside. You know what I mean? And it's also a way to keep people out so you don't lose anybody, because we've gone through a lot of loss, you know, and abuse and trauma and all that. You know, my whole childhood was that. So
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Your mom and dad still alive or no?
no, my father, like I said, killed himself when I was 16, and my mom's still hoarding and a little out of her mind. My mom's a great woman, really artsy and really interesting and educated.
She just like hoarder, like
She just is not with it. Right, she can't, you know. She's been, I mean, her mother committed suicide. Then she lost my brother, and she went through bankruptcy, divorce, lost all our businesses, and my father beat her for 21 years, and, you know, then it was just constant chaos. We were always going into hiding because he was going to take us out in the woods and kill us, and it was always something. He was always kidnapping me and putting me in the back of a pickup truck and taking me somewhere into New England or Canada. You know, I never knew what was going to happen. So, like I said I've said in rehab several times, as a kid I developed this, what I call is my numb button. Because I never knew what angle or what was going to happen, so like I just like had this like freeze kind of thing where like I would just deal with it and just like I would press my numb button and just And then when I found opiates, it was like
And like it
was like my numb button, and I didn't have to do any work.
Yeah.
You know, so it was perfect. All of a sudden, I didn't care anymore. I didn't care, and I
Oh, so you used to get abused a lot when you was young?
not physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
My
Drug
father,
abuse is so much worse.
right? But he owned a gymnastics gym, and he insisted that had to be the best and a competitive gymnast, and I did that 60 hours a week on top of school as a fourth grader, you know, so I never had time for friends or other things, or, you know, I didn't know who I was or what I liked, and I was forced to do that, and I enjoyed it physically, you know, I enjoyed flipping around in the air and doing
Yeah.
that, but I'm not a competitive person. I
He
did it.
forced you basically to do
Right.
something you wasn't really into.
It was his way of having more custody.
Yeah.
Is having me there all the time, and, you know, mind fucking me. So.
But I noticed when you do that, I noticed that me growing up, people that do that with their kids try to keep their kids from doing everything they do, be there with them, and not try to like be outside with their friends and them.
But-
They be the one that turn out to get in judge edition because they be so stressed
because
out.
they're so confined, and that's what the people that have my son now, that's what they're doing to him, and I don't believe in that. I believe in letting them make their own decisions to an extent.
let them go talk to their little
you
kids. They not
can't,
wrong
yeah,
with
you
that.
can't shelter them because they're just gonna go crazy.
You just gotta teach them not to talk to strangers, stuff like that. But you go let them play.
Teach
with
them
kids,
how to make, you know,
find how to talk to people.
it's like don't do that because I said so. Like, that's
Yeah.
wrong. You need to explain why.
Explain why. Yeah.
Because otherwise, why should
When
they
they're at that age that they
respect that?
start,
Because
Exactly.
they don't understand why you're
when they
making
too
that
young,
decision.
when they too young, they don't understand.
You insult
You gotta wait till they get to a certain age that you already know that your kid already can understand what you're telling them.
Mm.
That's when you start breaking everything that are telling the truth. But when they young, they really ain't gonna know nothing yet.
Well, you know, I still, even as a small child, my mother made me feel like my thoughts and feelings and opinions were valid. And thank God for that, because my dad was so the opposite, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I needed to have that. But, you know, even if I was wrong, she'd be like, well, you know, I don't think that's really gonna work, honey, but why don't you try it? We'll do it together and we'll see what happens, you know. And I learned from that, you know,
Yeah.
and that was the greatest thing she could have done, you know. But
Make the mistake together so you can see.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
important for them to understand why you're making the decisions and why you're saying
why
no.
you telling? Yeah, you gotta explain it now. Then you gotta tell the kid why is it you telling? If they real smart, they want to worry you. Oh, if daddy telling you don't do that, but why that person do? But he not telling me why not do it.
Like, touch the heart together. See that? Now you get it?
Especially like the kids that's not from down here, that they got the money, the people that got money live on the other side, wherever they live, that they're not from down this side, they don't see that environment, they don't know nothing about it.
Right.
They just probably see on TV or they hear their dad talking about
Well,
it,
you know what's
or their
funny?
parents talking about it, right? They're like, oh, just don't do drugs, not good. But once they come down here, they see everybody sleeping everywhere, getting high. They get in their head, oh, it's cool to do that. That's the cool thing to do now.
Well, I'll never forget 5th grade. We had that DARE program. You know the DARE program. Well, they had police officers come in. They actually lit weed on fire for us to smell it in the auditorium. Isn't that weird? But they showed us this
They
video.
said that shit good for asthma. No, somebody told me that they said like get a little pot with water and put weed in it, and you get asthma and boil it. When it start boiling, you throw the weed and get a towel, put it over your head like that over the pot, and just keep inhaling all that. And they said that supposedly it take your asthma, but I don't know if it's true.
The Himalayan salt. apparently.
They say it help you. I'm gonna try because I got asthma. I'm gonna try and see if it's true. But
Well, I
they say
remember thinking.
they say it open up all your learning. It help, but I don't know if it's true.
Good.
Yeah, well, it's so young. We don't, we're just starting to learn all the things all the benefits that it could
Yeah.
have. But I remember thinking as a 5th grader, they showed us this video, and it was like this young black kid that like went up to a chain link fence, and he's like, yo, come here. And he's like, you want to try, you want to smoke, you want to try some drugs or something? And I'm like, what is this? This doesn't happen to us. This only happens to inner city kids. I remember thinking that.
What, they were giving you a sample?
No, well, they were showing us the video. And I
Oh.
remember thinking, this will never
I
happen
thought
to me.
you said they was giving you a bag of them free. You were
No,
like, "This
yeah,
never
right,
happened."
yeah, the cop.
What school
But-
was that? Kennington University?
But I remember
right.
thinking
Elementary.
that, like, what?
Samples.
You know, but yeah, you know, I never thought I would be offered drugs like that. Like, that's just for inner city kids. That doesn't happen around here, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you get introduced. You meet the wrong person.
Well, actually, my best friend, her parents were hippies, and they grew pot in their closet. I remember every afternoon she
They what?
They grew pot in their closet. They called it the secret
Oh.
garden. But you know, we never partook of any. But they also grew opium poppies. I remember we used to put little faces in it, but we didn't know what we were doing, you know. But you know, the drugs never came from there. We never, you know, that was never an issue. It was funny.
You got a picture of you and your son?
Yeah, oh yeah, I got.
How long ago was it? Like when you was clean
Yeah.
before you start?
Yeah, I got some around here somewhere. Well, but you know when it really started, when I was after I was pregnant, I stopped using, you know, anything, and I didn't completely quit smoking. I cut down to like 1 cigarette a day, but you know, he came out perfect and healthy and all that. I had a lot, they missed with the epidural, and so I was leaking spinal fluid.